tonight, as our opening track, Mirror Mirror, a top 5 hit in 1981, might suggest we are talking to one half of the most aesthetically perfect duos in pop during the 70s and 80s. There was the blonde and beautiful David Van Day and his professional and personal partner back then, Teresa Bazar, who, let's face it, was even more blonde and more beautiful. They had 10 top 40 hits, and whilst they went their separate ways many, many moons ago, we are delighted to announce that Teresa Bazar is back, having lived in Australia for a long, long time, currently preparing her new band to go out on tour as Teresa Bazar's Dollar, and I'm delighted to say she's joining us for a great conversation tonight on The Evening Show. Hi, Teresa.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. First, I want to make sure, is it Teresa?
You say it however you like. So many interpretations, I don't care anymore, actually. I like anything.
And where are we speaking to you from in the world? Do you still live in Australia? Are you in the UK?
I'm in the UK. I'm in the north. I'm in Leeds.
Oh, right. Okay. And is that home base now?
No, it's rehearsal base for the tour. My base for the next, where I've been back and forth to London quite a few times. I can tell you a lot about the train system, but no, I'm staying with some friends in Leeds because our rehearsal studio is kind of down the road. So that's good.
So the tour kicks off tonight in Milton Keynes, then Leeds tomorrow night. How many gigs are you doing in total?
9 dates. And, it's sort of, well, it's not exactly dipping my toes in Essex. It's a bit more than that. But I think I'm up to my waist in it now. But it's sort of a kind of a tryout maybe for next year to see how I feel, what works, what I love, and just to get back into things. Really, you've got to start somewhere, haven't you?
Absolutely. I mean, when you say get back into things, how long has it been since you were sort of performing, professionally?
Apart from a real dipping my toes in, which was one little sort of upfront personal show, like a one-woman show in 2019. It's been about 40 years, really, give or take. So, especially doing a live tour. I mean, Dollar never toured with a live band. We did sort of like clubs and things, but never actually did a live tour with shows with a band. So, it's all everything I've wanted to do, and finally getting to do it.
Oh, how amazing. So this is going to be your first live tour. How rock and roll is it going to get, do you think?
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. We were running. So my new singing partner, Stephen Fox, we were actually running the show, just us yesterday, kind of like blocking out, the moves and where we're standing and all that sort of thing. And, but obviously we're running it with, some of the rehearsals that we've recorded, and, we've really changed up. It's not me, it's actually the whole band's process, changing up some of the album tracks and things. And one of them, he said, sounds more like Queen than Dollar. It sounds nothing like us, which is because it's very guitar based, you see. So we've got a brilliant guitarist, and really all of the musicians are so good. They're all going to be spotlighted a lot. So, it's quite different to that transition into the 80s when it was all programmed, all synth based, all, that kind of pop studio based. So,
yes,
it gives you a lot more freedom to be expressive in other ways. And I think that's the mark of a good song anyway, that you can do a different treatment and it will still stack up.
Here comes that same old feeling again. Love's got a hold of me, love won't let go of me, love.
In 1979, that was Dollar's top 5 breakthrough hit, Love's Got a Hold on Me. And back then, Teresa, there was so much focus on the personal relationship between yourself and musical partner David Van Day. So going out now, performing as Teresa Bazar's Dollar with a new band and a new professional on-stage partner, Stephen Fox, how has that been for you?
Oh, it's fantastic. Well, being much older, I'm 68 now, and I developed a stutter when I was turning 60, I think, going, oh my goodness, how am I going to manage? And kind of now it's actually very liberating because I don't know how old I am. I'm just however I feel on any given day. And as I keep saying to people, the packaging and all of us changes, but we're just the same essence inside.
Yeah.
And so being on stage, it's a multi-generational band as well. Like the bass player's 29, so he's like the same age as my boys. And maybe I kind of like feel like I'm a bit maternal towards him. Then you've got a couple of the drummer and the keyboard player had what the keyboard player had a poster of me on his wall, I think, so it's kind of like fun, and kind of I tease them. Sometimes I give them a look, I go, and they look at me and they just burst out laughing. I mean, because it's just, so it is good fun. It really is lovely.
And I mean, the thing is, there are so many songs to sing. I mean, there was so many hits. I think people forget you had, 10 top 40 hit records. So, I mean, just singing the hits alone will keep you going for quite some time on the stage.
Oh, I think the show is about 2 hours. I mean, seriously. So when we run the whole show and then we sort of stop. I mean, there's an interval. Thank goodness, I can sit down for 20 minutes, but and change my dress. But there's a lot to go through, and I think what I wanted to do, as well as kind of get back on stage with a live band and see what it can sound like and feel like. And some of the songs, obviously, you've got to be respectful to the iconic riffs and melodies, but I wanted to kind of sort of pay tribute to sort of sometimes the unsung heroes or the less celebrated heroes, which are the writers and the producers.
Right.
Because without them, we would never have, I mean, obviously it was a major contribution, but it was a team effort. And sometimes, especially in the 80s, because as you said, we were so much kind of pin-up kind of image that they never really got the kind of lip service that I think they deserved. So part of it is like a songwriting journey for me as well. But also production techniques that change. So it's kind of like a musical timeline in a way. Because
Trevor Horn, of course, was a major force behind the success of Dollar, wasn't he?
Oh, he was. I actually sent him a message the other day. You might be coming to one of the shows, because I sent him a message. I said, I know you're terribly busy, but I thought, I just wanted to let you know where I am and what I'm doing. And he goes, I'll see if I can try. And then he sent me another message going, sorry if that sounded a bit abrupt, because I didn't mean to be unfriendly, but I'm really going to try. So, I mean, we met up last year, and he's got such a special place in my heart, because that was the big, and I guess in his heart for himself, because that was the beginning. Dollar was the springboard for his incredible career.
Well, yeah, and then he went on to produce ABC, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Seal, and of course, had his own success within Buggles.
I heard you on the wireless back in 52, lying awake in
Video killed the radio star, a hit in 1979 for Trevor Horn during his Buggles days, juggling that with producing the dynamic pop duo Dollar. And we'll be back with Teresa Bazar of Dollar next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, where it's just you, me, and Dollar's Teresa Bazar cozying on in for a great conversation as she kicks off her UK tour with a new band this week, taking in Milton Keynes, Leeds, Eastleigh, Gloucester, Wolverhampton, Chesterfield, London, Glasgow, and then Burnley. Right now, though, we are going to take a meander back through the mist of time to figure out the path that led you to chart success and pop stardom. Dollar wasn't actually your first band, was it? You first started out with Guys and Dolls. So had you always aspired, let's say as a sort of a teenager getting into music? What kind of things were you listening to? Where did you imagine yourself going?
I was a ballet girl. I had no interest in pop music whatsoever. It was extraordinary, like how life unravels. It's just so fascinating. So I was into classical music and ballet, and very, very purist, very perfectionist. And I knew sort of by the time I was 13 or 14, I was really technically very good, but I knew that I wasn't the right body shape. So I was a realist. And I sort of thought, well, if I can't do ballet, I'll sing and dance. So I got myself a couple of pantomimes and was in a little touring show. And I just answered an ad. In those days, it was print, it was newspapers, and the stage was the Bible for showbiz. And they had an advert in there for girls and boys who could sing and dance. And I thought, I better go to that then, because it was like the old adage, I'll go for everything and see what happens. And I did. And I was like the most switched off person. Everyone was there. 3 of them were from a very sort of like Italia Conti was a stage school that, all the child actors and the child stars all went to this school. So they were all very aware, and they were kind of dressed in a cool fashion, and they were loud, and they were confident. I was the absolute opposite. I didn't know what I was doing. I think they must have chosen me either because I was smaller than David, or I just was such a child. I looked about 12. Literally, I looked about 12.
But you got into that band. And again, they had, chart success pretty quickly. How old would you have been then when you were sort of first thrust into the spotlight with them?
I was 17, very young. But the incredible thing was, and I sort of thought, I'm going to learn what to do, and was very diligent and very serious about it all. And then amazingly, I fell in love with pop music. And I started really, I had this incredible appetite to listen to everything that I could and learn about harmonies and song structures. And I was in there hook, line and sinker, so much to the point that I started criticizing the music, because I said, we're going to get left behind because you can see how things are changing and listen to this sound. But no one really listened to me. And, probably got a bit irritating, and David wanted to leave anyway. And as we were girlfriend and boyfriend, they threw us out.
There's a whole lot of loving going on. We're apart.
There's a whole lot of lovin', a number 2 hit for Guys and Dolls in 1975. Our special guest tonight, Teresa Bazar, started out in that band, and that's where she met her personal and professional partner, David Van Day. So you left Guys and Dolls because musically it wasn't the direction either of you wanted to go in. So what kind of music were you leaning towards then?
I liked ABBA. I mean, I was the one that was walking around going, ABBA, have you heard? It's such great. And everyone said, shh, you can't talk about ABBA. I said, why? Because they're not cool. I said, well, I think they're great. I had still no idea that you had to be cool, because I just wasn't cool. And so I was listening to ABBA, and I think it was like the punk era. Obviously, I wasn't into that, but Debbie Harry, I fell over, sort of discovered Debbie Harry, even though Blondie was a punk band then. But kind of, it was her charisma.
Yeah.
And there weren't, most of the girls that you saw were very, very middle of the road. And there wasn't anyone that wasn't, very punky and looked very scary, but she looked so attractive and sexy. And yet she was kind of a very different kind of image. So it was the whole idea of image and music kind of fusing together that I loved.
And when you and David left Guys and Dolls together, did you sort of have a game plan of, right, look, did you sort of look to Sonny and Cher, or, another sort of male-female combo to sort of set your course to go that way?
No, not at all. David wanted to be a solo artist. The whole idea was he was going to leave anyway. I was going to stay in Guys and Dolls and earn some money and support us. That was the plan. And they sort of got wind of that, and they threw us both out. And there we went. David tried, I think, for about 9 months to get a solo deal. No one would sign him. It was, to this day, I still don't really get that. And somebody turned around and said one day, well, there isn't a girl-boy duo in the UK. And I said, can we go and market you as a girl-boy duo? And I think David was so fed up with everything. He went, oh, we'll have a go and see what happens. And they went to this new record label that was setting up and just sort of like proposed the idea. And they said yes. And I suppose Grease was very, very big at the time. And they said you could be like Olivia and John Travolta.
Right, of course.
Summer loving had me a blast.
Summer Nights, a hit in 1978. Of course, Grease had just been released a few months beforehand, and then Dollar broke onto the pop scene, having been inspired by the fantastically successful pairing of John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. They were a match made in heaven in terms of the silver screen, and there was something about the chemistry between the two of you that the public just absolutely fell for. There was the real life romance. You were both very attractive, blonde, beautiful, glamorous people. Did it feel like you'd sort of, for example, when you did your first Top of the Pops together, did that feel like an amazing moment for you? Do you have a clear recollection of that day and who you would have been on the show with?
I have a recollection emotionally. I was terrified. I remember shaking. I was just so scared that I would mess up. I've always had a vulnerability, always. And I remember feeling particularly scared because it's just the two of us. I'm going, what if it doesn't work? And what if I make a mistake? And what if they don't like it? It was all that kind of feeling. But I can't remember who was. I just remember the agony of the day passing so slowly until the show. It just seemed to go on forever because you just sit in the dressing room the whole time. There's nothing to do. And I think I must have practiced the song and the moves hundreds of times just to try and get the nerves away. But and too shy. I mean, I wouldn't have even remembered who was there, honestly, Jackie, because I was so nervous and so scared. I just head down, didn't want to look at anyone, just wanted to know that it would be okay. It was very scary for me.
Well, maybe it was fake, but I've just had a quick look to see who was on the first show. And at number one, they weren't in the studio with you, but at number one on your first appearance on Top of the Pops, it was John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John with Summer Nights.
Goodness me, isn't that extraordinary? Wow. And the thing was, I actually we were one of the first band's artists to make a pop video. And I remember going to the studio, and it was like a tiny little studio in Soho in London with basically like a photographic studio with two cameras. One was static and one was moving. And that's what it was for a video. But I wore exactly the same thing that Olivia Newton-John wore at the end of Grease, the black boob tube and the kind of the I wore exactly the same as that. Yeah.
Amazing. What an amazing connection. And do you remember sort of, the nice, the sort of any full circle moments of getting to meet musical heroes, or having lovely memories of people that you got to meet when you guys were sort of right at the top of your game and having hit after hit after hit? You said you didn't go on tour with as such, but did you sort of get to appear at many things with other artists? And
I remember having a good old chat with Kate Bush in the Ladies' Loo. I loved it because she was young and she was different. And she said, I think she asked, she said, "Are you nervous?" I said, "Very nervous." She said, "Me too." And it was just so nice to have a proper conversation with someone, to kind of not have to hide behind this veneer, the polished professional.
Yeah.
It was just so lovely.
I hear him before I go to sleep.
A hit in 1978, The Man with the Child in His Eyes by Kate Bush, nervously hiding in the backstage ladies' loos, along with an equally quaking Teresa Bazar of Dollar, who is our special guest on The Great Conversation tonight. And we will continue our chat with Teresa next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, and welcome back to our Great Conversation, where tonight our special guest is Teresa Bazar of Dollar, who's back in the UK for a tour with her new band and new onstage singing partner, Stephen Fox. But as we are wont to do on our Great Conversation, we are meandering through Teresa's most meaningful musical memories from back in the day. Back then, Teresa, was there much camaraderie, would you say, amongst the different pop acts?
It was the girls, really, and it was so lovely to see the beginnings of all these young women, and we were all so different, really different. I remember having a chat with Susie in the Banshees. I said to her, "How long does it take you to do all of that?" And I thought, I've got, issues with getting ready, but with all of her mates, she said, "Ages, darling, just ages and ages." In Kim Wilde, and they became quite friendly with Toya, and it was again like her image, what she looked like.
In the distance, it's a mystery.
Number 4 in 1981, It's a Mystery, Toya, a peer and a pal of tonight's special guest, Teresa Bazar of Dollar. Obviously with success came lots of great experiences and opportunities and excitement, but there can be a downside to that kind of relentless public exposure, right?
It was sort of like a punching bag for a lot of the time.
Yeah, you got your fair share of flack in Dollar, didn't you? You sort of, there was a love-hate thing, I think.
I think it was, and it was only actually when after the first string of hits with Chris Neal, which were beautifully crafted records. Hence that's why they were very big hits and sold loads and loads of records, because the public liked them. But then when we met up with Trevor and that sort of era started, it was Paul Morley that put his head, I think he was writing for the New Musical Express, and he sort of put his head above the parapet and said, "Don't ridicule this, and just don't, just have a listen," because he was so complimentary about the music.
Yeah.
And for me, that's when I went, thank goodness, because if they don't like our image, that's okay. But don't you dare criticize the music, the records, because they are sublime and perfect, and he was the one that started it. And then, of course, everyone just started to follow.
If I asked you to pick a particular favourite from the Dollar repertoire, what would that be and why?
Oh, my gosh. Well, Handheld in Black and White because that's where the Trevor Horn era started. And that was actually the basis of that record was a demo that Trevor and Bruce Woolley wrote. And that's after I kind of pursued Trevor to the point that he actually met with David and myself to see if he'd produce us. And he said, well, I don't really produce artists. I said, yes, I know. But anyway, he went off and he wrote Handheld in Black and White and Mirror Mirror that night.
Wow.
Which was extraordinary. And then he phoned me the next day. I mean, I went away from that meeting feeling so dejected. And he said, well, I'll call you if anything happens. I thought, yes, well, the chances are. And blow me down the next day, he called. He said, we had quite a nice evening, Bruce and I. Would you like to come and sing on the demo? And that was Handheld in Black and White. And actually, there's the first Top of the Pops we did. That is an incredible memory. Trevor played bass,
right,
on Top of the Pops, and I often look at that clip. And actually, I put that on my socials, and that clip went viral. 4 million views.
Wow.
Of Handheld in Black and White with Trevor, because I think it was just, anyone know who the bass player is? That's all I said. And you've got all these people going, who is the bass player? I don't know, because all these people from America. They've got no idea. They go, they look cool, it sounds cool, but who are they? It's so funny.
Handheld in Black and White, a hit in 1981 for Dollar, who were, of course, David Van Day and my special guest on tonight's great conversation, Teresa Bazar. Final question before I let you go, Teresa. It's one that we ask all our guests. It's to get you to pick the final track of the hour by a favourite artist. I wouldn't ask you to pick your favourite song, that's bonkers, but let's say a particular song that you revisit often because you know it's guaranteed to put you in a certain mood or take you to a certain place that you want to be.
Oh my goodness. Okay. The Police, Every Little Thing You Do Is Magic.
Because
every time I hear it, I have to get up and wiggle around and dance. It just makes me happy. even if I'm peeling the potatoes. Well, I actually don't peel potatoes because I like the skins on. But you know, it just makes me happy. Yeah, and it's perfect. Again, it's just a perfect record.
Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, a number one in 1981 for The Police, and the final track chosen tonight by our special guest on The Great Conversation, Teresa Bazar of Dollar. Well, listen, Teresa, let's remind people that you are out on tour in the UK right now, and what else is in the pipeline?
Oh, we've actually got a new record that's coming out, which is a remake of a big hit, but in a very cruisy, dancey kind of vibe. It's very good. I love it, but it's a big hit record that someone's just changed up, which I think is amazing. So that's coming out soon.
Fantastic. All right, we'll look forward to that. Wish you all the very best with the tour, and thank you so much for taking the time. It's been lovely to catch up.
Oh, thanks ever so much, Jackie. I've had a lovely time. Thank you.
All the best. Take care.
Thanks very much. Bye now.
Teresa Bazar's Dollar. How fabulous. She's back out on the road.